said and written about Ian's outsized analytical capacity. I'd like to say a few more words more generally about Ian Stewart, public servant. Senior officers of public service are expected to demonstrate a values-based approach to leadership, and we heard something about that from John. To root their advice in the best possible analytical context, and to be unalterably committed to public interest. And Ian certainly has been a model for each of those values in public service. Indeed, Ian Stewart was one of the great post-war leaders in Canadian public service. Now, his watch as a senior public servant was not of his choosing. The 1970s and the 1980s was a time of great difficulties in many respects, fracturing Canadian federalism, strained relations with our closest neighbors, the United States, the emergence of restructured global energy market and the episodic rise of our environmental consciousness, a misery index of inflation and unemployment not seen for half a century, a policy landscape which was creeping towards a natural spent forest, and an economics profession that lacked the sure-footedness to provide confidence that these global adjustments could be made without undue scarring on the people of Canada or a polarized shift in politics. Now, I said his watch was not of his choice. He did not create these problems. He was hard at working through these problems. Now, against this mise-en-scène, the Trudeau government, dominated by Trudeau, Lalonde, and Kekam, struggled heroically and inevitably, imperfectly, to find a way forward and to build a better Canada. And up through the ranks emerged a public servant drafted by his peers to take on the key advisory positions of the day, PCO and EMR, and at finance. Now, I was in my 20s at the time, working for Ian Fred at PCO. Perhaps my youth at the time gave way to an element of mild worship, and perhaps my age today is somewhat tainted by fumes of nostalgia. But my vivid recollection of Ian Stewart as a happy warrior, bearing the burdens of the government and society, deeply analytical, passionately committed, with unlimited courage to step forward out of duty, not hubris, to do the pure Ian thing, as Fred and Andrew have said in the introduction to the volume, to sort through the complexities of an age, a stream of integrated and sophisticated analysis and commentary, and put his name on a clear recommendation for action. Now, this image of Ian pacing his office late on Friday night, missing the opening pitch of the Blue Jays, mentally grinding through his thoughts on what significant advice to offer the Prime Minister for his weekend reading before an important cabinet meeting early in the next week. Having read the brilliant, cogent, and of course correct draft advice by his small contingent of policy analysts, Ian would call in his assistant and begin dictation. Prime Minister, you have your briefing notes for Monday's cabinet meeting, with which I entirely agree. But you may want to think about 2 or 3 underlying tensions in the state of our knowledge, the willingness of your colleagues to grasp and take action on the best way forward, etc., etc. This was the inside insider at the PM's elbow in the halls of power at the old railway station conference center, at a First Minister's meeting on the economy, remember those? Orchestrating Jerry Bowie to beat back the calls by Peter Lougheed for a regionalized monetary policy. All the while, his partner Dale marched outside, calling for more accountable, transparent government and management. We always knew where Ian drew his strength from. When Trudeau returned from the G8 in his bilateral with the German Chancellor to announce publicly an immediate $2 billion budget cut, this was news to the finance department. And remember who the minister was. You're thinking, it wasn't Mark Llewellyn. Who better but Ian to bring coherence to such an abrupt change in policy? In fact, to create an opportunity for new policy initiatives out of a cost-cutting exercise. Perhaps Barack Obama could benefit from your advice today. Ian's approach to public policy was always reached beyond the normal barriers, was global in perspective, and while leading edge in efficiency and opportunity, never neglected the issues of equity and environmental degradation. Being a minor character in the chorus, it was a joy for me to work for Ian, and a great scene being acted out every day at the L'Angevin Block between a great intellectual Prime Minister and a humble, humanistic, intellectual public servant, Ian Stewart. Ian won many and lost a few. Front lines of public policy are like that. The Canadian public has much to be thankful for that you were there